Hello and welcome to my Chats with Dads in Business. This is where I speak to busy dads who are running or leading businesses or leading teams about how they manage their energy, their focus and their health whilst they're spinning lots of different plates. If you're watching live or if you've got any questions, please let us know in the comments and say hi. And I'm delighted to welcome today's guest, Craig Gillespie, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, Paul. Thanks for having me on. I've watched the last couple of live ones, so yeah, they've been really interesting. It's good to see other business owners and busy dads' perspectives on things. There's lots of commonalities between some of your guests so far. So yeah, definitely describe myself as a busy dad. I've got two boys. One is 24, the other one is 11. So there's lots of different challenges that go on between having such a big age gap. Means you have a bit of a babysitter as well, which helps. And on top of that, I coach my youngest son's football team. I do a lot of mountain biking, and for business, I'm a graphic designer. That's my kind of trade, and I run a small agency. And we kind of help them create brands that stand out. So everything from logos, color palettes, all of those things, help put together social media strategies, marketing plans, things like that. And we work mainly with coaches and consultants in the health and wellness area just now, but also started moving into hospitality as well. So working with lots of bars, restaurants, and those kind of things as well. So that kind of rounds that up. I've also just in the last year started a kind of side business because I'm not busy enough. Which is kind of combining my two passions, which was always magazine design. That was one reason I got into design, and mountain biking. And I've launched a mountain bike magazine, which is at the moment based in Scotland and focusing on some of the amazing trails and centres that we've got up here. And yeah, just sort of combining those two things. And the idea was really so I could go out and ride my bike in different places more often. And that was the real reason behind starting it, but it's been really good. And mountain biking's got a great community with it, and I've just met so many interesting people, been to loads of new places. So yeah, it's kind of just trying to expand my horizons and open up new kind of markets and different people that I want to work with. So yeah, like I say, definitely call myself a busy dad in business.
Yeah, that is very much what I would call you, with that like long list of things, and then you're adding more into the mix as well.
And there's another thing, yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, so yeah, you're basically the perfect guest to get on because spinning so many plates and growing. Obviously, you're cultivating your own business, and you're constantly having to market and sell and get new clients and do new work, and you've probably got a lot going on there. Then you're obviously doing the thing on the side, which allows you, that passion, that escape to kind of go out on the trails as well, and a great bit of the country, I guess, to do that.
Absolutely.
So yeah, you must have, I probably sleep well, I'd imagine. So
yeah, most of the time, yeah, I do sleep. I generally kind of get around about 7 hours. That seems to be the right amount for me. But yeah, I fall asleep really quickly. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. But yeah, I tend to be reasonably tired by the time it comes to 10 o'clock at night. So I've got not strict kind of bedtime and evening routine. It's kind of reasonably flexible. But yeah, usually by 10, 10:30, I'm ready for bed, if not already in bed. But yeah, I do sleep pretty well.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I mean, that would be a consequence of just being incredibly busy and doing a lot of, you're obviously going to be active physically and moving around a lot, but also a lot of work and a lot of things going on in your head as well. So and one of the points I like to impress on people that I work with is how actually you can improve your sleep by trying to move more, which then obviously helps with the recovery, and then you wake up feeling rested. It sort of feels counterintuitive sometimes to do more stuff, but it can actually help you go to sleep, which is, has its benefits.
Yeah, absolutely. I wasn't always that way. I've never always been as probably physically active. I've always been probably mentally active with lots of busy stuff going on, but probably over the last 5 or 6 years become more physically active by got back into mountain biking about 5, 6 years ago, and then taking the kids football team as well. There's obviously a reasonable amount of physical activity involved in that. We train twice a week and then play on Saturday morning. So yeah, definitely the physical side of it has definitely helped my sleep routine.
Yeah. So when it comes to kind of keeping yourself going, keeping your focus, keeping your energy levels so that you can do all of this stuff and accomplish everything that you do, is there anything you can sort of reflect on over the past few years that you've really had to work on in terms of managing your health and your energy?
Yeah, probably the biggest thing is planning. Really, I used to keep everything in my head, and kind of work from that. As my kind of to-do list was even to-do list was all in my head. Dates for being somewhere, people's birthdays, nothing was ever really written down. So I don't know if it became with an age sort of thing that I was forgetting things all the time, especially birthdays. That was one of the things I would always forget. So yeah, just starting to plan things out and be more organized. Actually, being a creative person, you kind of like flexibility. You don't really like to be kind of held by, time. Like I have to work on a logo project from 2 till 5 p.m. today. It doesn't really work like that for a creative person. You need to almost wait for the inspiration to come to you or be in the right frame of mind or the right mood. So yeah, I always had this, well, I can't plan too much because it'll make me less creative. But strangely, the better I've got at it over the last few years, especially, I've found being much more strict with my planning in terms of my days, my weeks, and my months ahead has actually, in a weird way, given me more flexibility. Because I can actually allow some time in my diary for a little bit of flexibility, but I kind of plan that in. So sometimes I'll be working on a project on a Monday and I just don't get anywhere with it. But I do have some extra time on the Tuesday and Wednesday that I can use to sort of fill that up. So yeah, definitely planning has probably been the biggest one. And then probably alongside that is journaling. Um, Journaling in terms of just even kind of setting my intentions for the day and planning out what I'm going to do. And then the biggest part that is impacting me the most is doing a weekly review to kind of look back on. Sometimes a week can go past and you think, oh, it's been a bit of a crappy kind of week. But then when you look back and you look at all the little wins that went through, even if it's something small like going for an ice cream with your son after school because it was a nice sunny day, or playing football in the park, those kind of things. Looking back on those little wins really helps and builds confidence, I think. But then I can also look at what didn't work and what I didn't do very well. So we mentioned sleep earlier. That was one thing that came up a lot, that I was going to bed way too late, or sitting in bed on my phone or the iPad, sitting there watching stuff till 2 in the morning or whatever. And it's those little things that helped me by reviewing it and notice those things and then start to plan up how to correct it. So yeah, journaling and planning has probably been, although they're not maybe directly linked to health benefits straight away, it's just given me the organization and planning of my life that I can then start to plan out some self-care. And like I say, even just going out my bike is actually good for me sometimes to get away from the desk. I'm very desk bound in my job, so planning out time, okay, Friday afternoons, I try to go out for a bike ride. That's kind of not a non-negotiable, but a nice to have. Obviously, if something comes up, you change that. But yeah, journaling and planning, I say, would be definitely the keystones and the most important things for me. If I don't do it as well, then I definitely notice it the next week or the week after that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. I love that. And this is one of the things I work on with my clients, is getting well organized with things. And actually, journaling sort of over the last few years has become a bit more mainstream and a bit of a buzzword. And you can go kind of quite an extreme way with it, and you can journal the hell out of everything and plan to the nth degree. But I think there's you can gain a lot from simply looking at, maybe listing 3 things that you're going to achieve today, rather than having a big to-do list, because our to-do lists are never finished. They're always going, and you're just disappointed when you don't complete them.
Exactly.
So I kind of like that. Right, what am I going to achieve today as a definite first thing I'm going to attack, And then also that review process, I think, is really important. And that's one thing I think a lot of busy dads especially don't necessarily sit down and do. So I think, we've got tools and systems we can use. We've got digital calendars that are all linked up to your phone and your watch and so on. So you can set reminders and you can have things in there. But I think, once a week is a good idea to really sit down and actually say, right, what did I get wrong this week? What did I plan to do and didn't do? How can I rectify that? And what's going on the week ahead? Where am I going to struggle? What's going to trip me up? What can I put in as a contingency plan? How am I? And obviously with my clients, I'm looking at what you're going to do for your lunches, what you're going to do for your meals. Are you going out? What's the plan? So it's just looking at things like that. I think that really is usually the difference between success and failure with a health-related goal, is being organized and planning ahead.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense to me. Yeah, because like I say, it's about kind of, for me, working out what went well so I could do more of that.
Yeah.
What didn't go well so I could do less of that the next weeks. And as things come around and life changes, and like my son's going from primary school to high school after the summer, so I'm sure even all of our routines around that are going to change. So there needs to be I think that, like I mentioned earlier, there needs to be some flexibility. If you don't have a plan, then you end up kind of just chasing your tail all the time, I think. So planning absolutely everything as much as you possibly can, but planning a little bit of flexibility in there as well has been helpful for me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's definitely, I think it's really important to either, if you're coming from a place of struggle, that's one of the things to look. Always make a big difference. Yeah. So you obviously, your job is largely sat at a computer. Apart from the new thing of being able to go out and use mountain biking as a job. But so when you obviously spend a lot of time at your desk, what's your kind of routine? Have you got a routine around do you look at, step count for the day? Do you try and put breaks in? What do you do to kind of safeguard yourself when you're in that space?
Yeah. So I kind of have different kind of priorities for each day of the week. Mondays are always more focused towards my son, because I'm always doing school runs in the morning and school runs in the afternoon, and then we have football training afterwards. So Monday is probably, in terms of work, I have the least amount of time sat at my desk. So I need to be quite focused in those times. So in the mornings, I tend to set aside from about 9:30 till 12:30 is kind of like deep work, I kind of call it. So that'll be the work that I kind of need to think on. It's also a little bit of planning as well, and where projects are, what needs to be done for the rest of the week. And then the afternoon is probably left a little bit more flexible, because by the time it gets to 12:30 and then I have some lunch and then I kind of check a few emails, I need to go to the school to pick up Charlie from school. So it's Mondays are more flexible than any other day. But yeah, every morning is generally from about 9:30 till 12:30 I call deep work. So that's more creative kind of work. And then in the afternoons, I probably chunk out, I think, 2 hours each afternoon for the kind of deep work and thinking. In between those, there's some small amounts of time, which is things like doing LinkedIn, social media stuff, doing reach outs and follow ups. So I maybe have half an hour before lunch or half an hour after lunch each kind of day. But in terms of things like step counts, I tend to not have a daily step count target. I probably have a Monday to Friday step count target. So that I'm not, like you said earlier, like if you set yourself a goal of 10,000 a day, but on Mondays or Tuesdays, I'm more desk bound and only hit 7,000, I feel like I failed. So to take that away, I just looked at Monday to Friday and gave myself 50,000 steps to do between Monday and Friday to kind of average it out at 10,000 a day. Because some days I'll be able to take a couple hours and go out for a walk. Other days, if I've got a deadline, then I'm pretty much stuck at my desk the entire day. But it takes away that feeling of bailed something at the end of the day, because I know that, you know, the next day or the day after that, I'll be able to, you know, do 12,000 steps or 13,000 to kind of hit that kind of target. I set aside, I've never really got into the gym. I've never really been a gym person, a gym going person. Part of it is probably due to, I live in a kind of village outside Glasgow, and to get to a gym is probably half an hour there and half an hour back, and it just feels a little bit like wasted time. So I've just got a couple of kettlebells and some dumbbells at home, and I set aside Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and I'll do half an hour to 45 minutes of that. Try to get a one bike ride in at least a week. And then outside of that, it's probably the biggest thing I struggle with though is nutrition, because I don't really plan that too much, and having kids around makes it a little bit trickier. They're very fussy at this particular age. So trying to cook 2 different meals a few nights a week is a bit of a pain in the neck. So yeah, that's probably the area that I still need to work on. I kind of make a loose plan, but sticking to the plan is the kind of trickier bit. So like I said earlier, I do have this kind of routine and schedule for pretty much every kind of day, but there is a little bit of flexibility in there. So there's things like being active and hitting step counts and things like that are built in, but I tend to not do that just on a daily basis. I try and look at it over a week and have those targets, because like I say, a deadline might crop up or something might change that I have to swap things around and stuff like that. So yeah, that's probably that's probably everything that's kind of that I think about on a weekly basis, and then sort of plan out and then try to action every day.
Yeah. No, I like that a lot. It's a really good idea to rather than have a daily target of some kind with your physical sort of movement, which, like you said, you can end up just disappointed because you didn't hit it. If you're busy and you planned a gym session or a workout and you didn't do it, then you're a bit disappointed, or the steps as well. So having a weekly plan, again, coming back to that planning, in the week, you look ahead a little bit and go, well, this day I'm probably going to be desk bound a bit more, but that day I can get out a couple of times. So, you could put your average in and then just try and get it over the week. So, really sensible. And actually it's a sustainable model. Then you don't have to be super disciplined every single day. You've got that sustainable model where you know that you're going to do a bit every day. You can make up the slack on a day when you've got a bit more time, and then you end up, with a net result over the week is the same as you would have done if you'd have had exactly the number every day. So that's kind of the idea. Yeah, just to kind of, like I say, that I need a little bit of flexibility, and even just from my creative point of view, there needs to be some, if, like I said earlier, if I've got a big deadline coming up, or I'm just not at the place that I wanted to be in this particular project, and I need to do a little bit more in the evening to work on it, then I can do that and not feel, I think that was the best word you used, was disappointed. Like a bit It's always the worst thing your dad or something could say to you is, I'm a bit disappointed in you. You don't want to feel disappointed at the end of the day that you didn't do something, and that you can then make it up later on in the week. Yeah, well, and especially with us blokes, and I think dads maybe more so as well, you beat yourself up too. So if you are disappointed with yourself, it's difficult sometimes with that mind to switch that mindset around to thinking, well, actually I can make up for it. Instead, we tend to just batter ourselves a bit. And that can lead to then just, getting on a bit of a downward spiral potentially, especially if you let it happen, repeatedly, you can sort of get stuck on a bit of a slippery slope. So I think it's a really good idea, again, with the part of that planning ahead and then allowing yourself that flexibility so that you've got a longer term target. That's definitely the way to go. It's a bit safer, you've got that wiggle room, you've got that flexibility, and life throws stuff up as well. You might have the best plan in the world, and then life says, nah, you have some of that, and then all plans are out, and you just got to figure it out as you go.
It happens more often than we like to think about, but it does. You're right, it does. It always comes when you think you've got your plan sorted, and then all it takes is one phone call or one email, and then the the rest of the week is completely changed.
And it's all gone. Yeah. And this is, one of the things, a lot of the time I have conversations with people who are considering working with a coach to work on something relating to their health. And oftentimes it's like, it's not the right time, or now's not good time. And there isn't a good time to do any of this stuff, because there's always going to be a thing, there's always someone's birthday, there's always a holiday, there's always a season, there's always an event, there's just always something. So I think if you can incorporate just life into your plan, build in your flexibility, have a base minimum level of discipline that you're going to adhere to, but you've got that plan B up your sleeve, for the worst case scenario. That's the best you can do, really. We're not professional athletes. We're not able to just drop everything and go and do one thing only, because that's not what life is like. So I think it's being sensible and having that sort of view of a longer term. Maybe your goal is, you can see your goal, but maybe to be realistic, it needs to be a bit further away, and you need to sort of reverse engineer it, break it down, and make it a bit easier to step towards it. And I think if you actually do that, as you start to make small leaps and small bits of progress, that's actually really motivating. Action often is the best motivator. Taking some action and seeing something happen usually is quite motivating. And then you're not disappointed at yourself and telling yourself off. You're actually thinking, oh, I did something really good today, and I'm getting towards that thing. So yeah, I'm a big fan of looking at it like that. Yeah. So I was going to ask you. So I work with my clients. I work on 4 kind of main pillars. So movement and exercise, we've sort of touched on. Sleep, we've talked briefly about it at the start there. Mindset, which is kind of your planning and your attitude towards things, and then nutrition obviously is a big one, because what you stick in here fuels your output, your mental and your physical output. So you've already sort of touched on the nutrition side a little bit. So I'm interested in that. Are you at home, working from an office at home? Do you go into a place of work anytime? And how do you sort of organize yourself around your nutrition? What's your nutrition routine look like?
Yeah. Again, being creative, I tend to like to change my environment, especially for different tasks. So I've got a little office, which I'm in at home at the moment. Some days I go to my girlfriend's house and we work there together, and when she's working from home, I tend to find doing admin tasks in somewhere like Starbucks is the best. If I do that at home, I'll get distracted, and there's always something better to do than sitting doing admin stuff. And also places like Starbucks or a local kind of coffee shop, I quite like the buzz of noise. In a weird way, it helps me focus a little bit more. So I use that sometimes, and there's some really nice co-working spaces in Glasgow as well that I use from time to time. Especially if I've got a meeting or a presentation that for a bigger project, I might take a client into somewhere like that as well. So again, flexibility within that as well. I've got a kind of routine. Monday, Tuesdays, or Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I work at home. Thursdays sometimes with my girlfriends, and then Fridays can be a little bit flexible depending on what I'm doing. The problem that I've found with being as flexible with my location is that probably nutrition then becomes a complete afterthought. And even when I'm working at home, and I do have this kind of regular-ish routine of let's say Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays will typically probably be at home. But I don't really plan out my nutrition. It is just what's left in the fridge more often than not. I tend to make quite a quick kind of lunch, which will tend to usually be something like an omelette with some vegetables in it. So I am conscious and aware of things like making sure I'm eating protein at most meals, or getting a good amount of protein. So yeah, I have a kind of routine for when I'm at home, but then when I'm not at home, then things just kind of, it's what's most convenient, which is never usually the best nutritional kind of choice. And like we said earlier, sometimes if I do make those, if you're actually hungry and you go somewhere to get something to eat, you find the most convenient thing, it's usually not the best thing to be eating. Either you're not making the best choices in those kind of moments, So yeah, sometimes I do feel like we said earlier, that disappointment. Oh, I probably shouldn't have eaten that, and then the next day you try and make up for it. But yeah, nutrition is definitely the thing that I should be focusing a little bit more. Again, with journaling, it is something that I'm aware of and I've highlighted probably since January. That's been the one thing that at the end of every week, what could I have done better? Nutrition's always in there. But being so busy, it's so far down the list of priorities. Although I know it's a priority for me and my health, it's not. There's many other things that are in front of it on that scale. I then also have this. It's probably an excuse of, well, I'm going on a 50K mountain bike rides on Saturday or Sunday, so it's fine. I'll just I'll have pizza for dinner tonight, and or after doing something like that, I kind of give myself a bit of an excuse of, well, I've had a big day out on the bike, so whatever I eat, it doesn't really count. So yeah, that's probably, I probably need more advice from experts like you of how to, like I say, I know it's a priority and I know I should be looking at it a little bit more, but it's how to get it up that list of priorities that I'm actually taking more action. I don't think my nutrition is particularly bad. Snacking is definitely the area for improvement. I do have a very sweet tooth. Crisps and snacks, that's definitely my downfall. Even if I probably ate in a very similar way to what I am just now and cut out all of those unhealthier snacks and replace them with something better, that would probably have quite a big impact and big improvement without doing too much. But like I say, I kind of know these things. It's not something that I don't know. It's just I'm not really taking action. So I probably need some of your advice on how to improve that, or how to think about it in a different way.
No, I hear you. I mean, it's often, there's a lot to unpack there, but when you're out and about and you are, like you said, you're making a choice, sometimes it's not that you've made a bad choice, it's that the environment that we've built is just full of poor choices often. So we live in a difficult time, in a difficult space. We've got an abundance of food and comfort, and obviously a lot of us have got sedentary jobs, so our body's not built for this environment that we've created, really. It's not built to just sit still and stay still for long periods of time, and it's not really built and designed in a way that's going to flourish in the food environment we've created. And sadly, the food environment's a money machine first and foremost, and the cheapest, most convenient and easily accessible options are not great nutrition for our body, not great for our digestive health, not great for our energy levels, and we're sort of trapped in this space. So it does take a bit of effort, and again, going back to what we spoke right at the start, actually getting organized and planned is one of the ways to try and help tackle that. And it's difficult, and I find a lot of the conversations I have, this is part of the problem. Everyone knows, and I don't like to label foods as good or bad or healthy or unhealthy. Food is food, but everybody knows that if they eat more of this stuff, that they're not going to support their health as well as if they went and at this stuff, which maybe requires a bit more effort and a bit more planning and organizing. So it's a real tough balance, but actually, and you've alluded to this, if you do actually put it forward and make it a bit of a priority and try to improve in that area, you actually benefit from it in other areas as well. So you can improve your sort of cognitive function and your focus and your energy levels through a day if you are able to improve what you're eating and how you're fueling your body. So snacking is a big area that a lot of people try to tackle, and there's a few ways of kind of trying to tackle it. There's you can take the approach of, I'm just not going to have any snacks, and I'm only going to have main meals, and that's it, and nothing in between. So you sort of tough it out a little bit. Or, you know, you look at, right, okay, there's going to be times when I'm going to need a snack, and maybe that's the thing that you get planned in and organized for. So, you know, you get things lined up ready for your snacks. So at home, you've got some sort of lower fat yogurt options, you've got fruit and nuts and, you know, things like that. Or when you're cooking, if you're cooking a meal on the weekend, rather than setting aside time to batch cook meals, is just make every meal a bit bigger, and just as you're serving, serve up one that's going to become a lunch or something in the week. So you don't have to have like a regimented thing necessarily. It's just making little tweaks and improvements here and there often is the best thing to do. And then it's a little bit more sustainable. So and things like, you know, fruit is a marvelous tool. I kind of look at it as a tool because, you know, if I'm feeling snacky, sometimes I might grab a protein bar or a protein shake or something like that, because I know roughly how many calories and how much protein's in it, so it sort of fits okay to what I want to achieve. But if you then have an apple and a banana and a satsuma with that, you're absolutely stuffed. All you've done is given yourself good quality nutrients, fiber, vitamins, natural foods. You know, it's not very sexy. It's not necessarily convenient, because you've got, you know, the banana peel and the apple core and you know, orange getting messy and stuff. But, you know, it's by far and away the best possible option. And if, you know, in terms of food volume and slowing down your digestive system and giving you energy over a longer period of time, it's the easiest way to go, you know. But, you know, when you go out for lunch, when you're in town, you're not going to find that stuff available, really.
No, absolutely. I think the point you said a minute ago kind of really rung true, was that I probably look at things like batch cooking as another big task to do. But I suppose, just even making slightly more of whatever I'm making, so that then instead of just making one portion, I make 2 or 3 portions. That's much more manageable, and then do that a couple of times a week. And like you say there, all of a sudden I've got lunch for pretty much the entire week, or the couple of days when I'm not at home. I like that. That helps.
When you're planning a meal, just go big. And, you know, and obviously you mentioned yourself, protein is really important, especially I think for men as we age. You know, it's a macronutrient that supports our metabolic health. So we want to eat, you know, adequate protein. Pretty much every single guy I've ever worked with is eating nowhere near enough protein to support their lean tissue, their bones, their organs, and that metabolism. So I'd say, you know, you can't, to overeat protein, you have to really go some, you know. So don't worry about that too much. And I would say, you know, try and just double up your protein portions at all your main servings, because you're going to feel the benefit from it. So your energy levels are going to be better and smoother through the day. Your metabolic health is going to be better. Your satiety is going to be better. You're just going to feel like a different machine if you feed yourself lots more protein. So that's a great shout. You know, when you're doing your next big meal, whatever it is, you've probably got a repertoire of a few easy peasy ones that you can knock out quickly. So just go nuts and make a huge batch of it, chuck a couple in the freezer, keep one in the fridge for lunch in the week. And then you've got too much food, and then, you know, you've got a nice, easy kind of option then.
And it's like I said earlier, then it becomes convenient then if it's sitting there ready for you. That's going in my plan for next week.
Perfect. That's the thing. Like, that's one of the biggest tips that I always say to people is, you know, prioritize protein, see where you can add it in. Make your meals bigger and use those, you know, even as a snack. You know, even if you've got meals plotted in and planned for the week, then just get one of those leftovers out and have it as a snack. Because if you're cooking whole foods, you know, it's going to be a healthy, filling thing. And then, you know, if that gets rid of a pack of biscuits a week, brilliant. You know, because then you're giving yourself better nutrients, a bit less of a sugar roller coaster. And overall, if you keep that going, you're just going to feel like a better machine anyway.
No, it makes perfect sense.
So I wanted to ask you then, is there like a person, an author, a celeb, an influencer, a podcaster, or somebody, or a book in particular that's kind of helped you and influenced you in terms of managing, your energy and your health and your focus and things like that?
I've worked with a coach called Paul Moore for the last four and a bit years. So yeah, just working with him, probably much more on mindset than anything else, which has impacted all the rest of those similar kind of pillars as what you mentioned earlier. So yeah, probably him on his own has been able to impact through working on mindset stuff, everything else that kind of goes along. It's really hard to focus on everything all at the same time. And I originally found Paul through, I did a couple of business courses and worked with business coaches, and none of them seemed to really make a kind of impact. And then I kind of realized that there was a common theme kind of going on, and it was me that was the problem, not the business that was the problem, if that makes sense. And I needed to work more on myself rather than coming up with new systems or doing another course to learn 3D motion and all these kind of things. I tried to fix problems by learning more, when actually what I needed to do was kind of stop and look inside a little bit deeper. So yeah, and in a weird way, well, not a weird way, but eventually then the business problems started to not disappear, but they became smaller and easier to manage. They were still there, and we'll still have more and more business challenges and problems as lots of things change, and AI comes in, and how we work is probably always going to be changing and evolving. So there'll always be those challenges, but knowing I've got the right mindset that everything will work out, everything will be okay, that I'm in the right place and I've got the right tools to overcome those challenges, that's probably been the biggest sort of impact on life as a whole over the last 4 or 5 years. So yeah, that's probably the most obvious one that kind of sticks out.
Yeah, I think that inner work is really, really important in anything you're going to do, because like you've sort of said, your business systems can be, a well-oiled machine and set up and doing exactly what you need them to do. So, it's about you and your attitude, I think, in the main. And yeah, I know I've followed Paul Mort for years now, and I've not worked with him, but I know a few guys who have, and he's a high impact coach. I mean, he's brilliant, and I think, and his backstory obviously is really powerful, and the way that comes through in the work that he does is a big impact coach. So yeah, I'd recommend people have a look at what he's doing as well, because
absolutely. He's not for everybody. I would say that he's not for everybody. He's got his very own personality and works in a very specific kind of way with specific kind of people, which is something that I, from my point of view, working with my clients, is niching down. It's always a bit of a cliche, but actually really knowing who you want to work with and who you can have the biggest impact on as well. And then just talking to those people directly. Like I say, Paul won't kind of fit with everybody's personality, but the people whose personality does fit, he fits really, really well. And that just comes from really clear on what kind of impact you can have on people, and how you can affect that and how you want to work. And then being clear on that, it's strange how once you do that, then those people start to be attracted to you if you can communicate that in a really nice and clear way.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, he's 100% Marmite, that's for sure. But the good thing is, if you watch some of his content, you'll know straight away if you're going to fit or not.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure there's lots of people that have maybe seen some of his content and think, is that what he's really like? Yeah. That's what he's really like. In person and online, there's no difference between it. Whether he's working and not working, it's the same kind of high energy output that he's got. So yeah. If you like his stuff online, then you'd probably like to work with him in the future.
Yeah. Cool. So I'm conscious of time, but I want to ask you just before we finish up, have you got any kind of daily non-negotiables in relation to, your health and your energy levels? And what do they look like?
Yeah, like probably alluded to earlier, I don't really set daily ones, but I do have things that I do most days. I don't like to say every day because again, it leads to that possible disappointment if you miss a day. So I journal most days, meditate is another kind of big one for me, and then just getting some kind of movement in as well.
Yeah.
Whether it is just if I'm doing the school run, I'll arrive at school half an hour early and just go for a walk around, or it could be a huge big 2 or 3 day adventure out on the bikes like I had a couple of weekends ago. So yeah, journaling, meditation has been really strong. I know we never really kind of talked about it until this point, but yeah, 15 minutes a day, most days, not every day, really helps. I actually changed from doing morning meditations to I found now lunchtime is a kind of sweet spot. After lunch and before kind of going back into work, it kind of resets me a little bit better. Yeah, that's been quite powerful as well. So those would be my three main things that are non-negotiables almost every day.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's better than having zero non-negotiables, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if I get two out of three every day, then I'll be happy. And it could be any of the three. One of them can drop it. Even if I get to one a day, I notice a difference. If I don't do any of those things in a day, then the next day is usually when it impacts, or even a couple of days it takes me to sort of reset. So at least try and get two of those in every day. Three is kind of optimal, but sometimes it's just not always possible.
Yeah. And with the meditation, so that's something a lot of people again struggle with because you sort
Yeah.
of, when you say the word, you conjure up a view potentially of what it is, but actually it doesn't necessarily need to be that. Is there an app you use or something simple that you've used to kind of help with that?
I've tried a few different ones. I think Headway was the first one that I used a few years ago. And then Paul Mort again introduced us to some different types of meditation. He has his own 6-phase meditation, which is really good. But also probably where are we, March? Yeah, it was about a year ago now. I did a weekend in Glencoe with an Ashaya monk doing ascension meditation, which was one of the most incredible weekends that I've ever done. Sitting in a room with kind of 8, I was going to say strangers. I did know some of them, and meditating for 15, 20 minutes at a time. But yeah, probably that ascension meditation is the one that kind of had the biggest impact. I've tried a few others. Dr. Joe Dispenza. I tried his. I found his maybe a little bit too out there for me. So yeah, went back to doing ascension meditation. I think that's the one that works best for me. There's so many different types. It is, like you say, it's not going to be for everybody, and I totally get that. So I don't talk about it too much. It's one of those things. If you find it and it works for you, then great. But I would say try different things, different apps, different methods. Some people do it for half an hour at a time. Some people can do it for 9 minutes. It doesn't have to be a huge amount of time as well. So it's more about the practice of it, and yeah, you never really know if you're doing it right. But I think that means you're doing it right.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I've tried some sort of breath work, kind of deliberate breath work.
Yeah.
And then I think really a lot of it is just about gaining some sort of state of mindfulness where you're just thinking about yourself and not problems and out external things. For me, so I think there's a big scale, isn't it, of meditation.
Absolutely.
You can come in anywhere along it and sort of feel it out and find what works for you.
Yeah, definitely.
And actually, I think yes. Sorry.
Either guided ones or the ascension ones where you're not thinking about nothing, because I think that's almost impossible. You're always thinking about something. Yeah. So yeah, those are some kind of guided meditation definitely works for me anyway, because my mind tends to wander all over the place.
Yeah. Well, and I just thought then, when you're doing something like if you're doing a big mountain bike, let's say you're doing a downhill route and it's really hardcore, you reach a similar state of being because you're focused fully on just that. So it's like that's your perfect flow state. That's your perfect state to be in.
Absolutely, yeah. I do make those connections. It is mountain biking is a form of meditation for me as well. I do find that. And like
with
you
an
say,
element of danger.
yeah, there's a risk. There's the riskiest meditation you could ever do.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very, very similar. It's more just like you said it's a state of mind that you go into.
Yeah, awesome. Well, look, thank you very much. It's been an awesome conversation. Before we wrap up, do you want to tell people how they can get in touch with you? Anything you're working on, particularly at the moment, that people might be interested in?
Yeah, sure. LinkedIn is probably the best place. I'm sure if you click the links around this video, you'll be able to find me and connect or drop a message. In terms of things I'm working on just now, I've changed my systems ever so slightly since January. So I'm working on a slightly different way of working, which essentially gets us from the start of a project to a finished project within the 30 days. And this can be quite a big branding project, including websites and things. So yeah, I'm still looking for some more test cases and case studies for that. So if anybody's interested in how that works, or what the first step that I'm trying to do now is just to set up some 15-minute chats to find out what people's problems are, what the biggest challenges are, and then if I can help them and see if we're a good fit really before we kind of go too far. It means that there's less risk for both sides, that we're not wasting a huge amount of time and energy. We work out quite quickly whether, like I say, I can help you with that project. And then, which is the biggest one for me, is connecting with people and creating that relationship. So you need to find out if you're a good fit for each other. So that's why we call it a good fit call, which is just 10, 15 minutes. We can do it old fashioned on a phone call, or it can be on a Zoom call. So yeah, that's the kind of the main sort of thing I'm working on just now, is more branding projects. Like I said earlier, I work a lot with coaches and consultants and all sorts of wellness areas, but also moving into hospitality as well. So yeah, anyone in those kind of industries that needs some help with logos and branding, websites, all that stuff, I can definitely help.
Yeah, fab. And I love seeing your content on LinkedIn. Your brand identity and your presence is clear to see and right out there, and like really striking, but looks fantastic. So yeah, and your content's great on LinkedIn.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's all about just being memorable, because these places are so noisy that you need something which is usually either visual, is a really good way of doing it, especially with people doing more and more video, is how can we get people to remember you. So I've got things like my sombrero that's in the back there. I've got this kind of Mexican theme to my business. So yeah, it's how you can make people remember you, so that they're, especially in my industry, probably similar to you, not everyone's ready to buy or work with you straight away. So how are they going to remember you in 3 months' time or 6 months' time, when they are ready to go, okay, I'm ready to kind of take on the challenge of whatever it happens to be. So it's, yeah, visual and your design and all of that stuff has a huge, huge impact on it. And yeah, that's my aim, is to help people overcome that as much as possible.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, highly recommend that you connect with Craig. And so for myself, at the moment, I've got one current one-to-one coaching slot open. And for anyone that's in Bristol that may have seen my stuff before, I run a dad's strength and fitness class on a weekend and on a Wednesday morning, early morning. And next week, we're actually closed for business because I'm relocating to a brand new studio. So crazy excited about doing that, although it's a back-breaking job moving a gym to a new premises. So I'm not looking forward to that bit necessarily. So look out for some new information on the new space. I can take on loads more clients locally, and the classes are incredibly popular. I've not really had a guy that's come and then tried the free first session and then not signed up. And the group is fantastic group of guys, all ability levels, all fitness levels. It's tailored for everybody, and we have a really good laugh in the gym as well. So have a look at the link there, and you'll see some of that. Yeah, I mean, it was sort of started as a little side project back in August 23, and it's become my baby now. And I've got 25 regular guys. We've got a bit of a community going, and we're looking to grow that this year and do more. And a lot of the comments I get from them is about actually it's their safe space for an hour a week to come and just be themselves, have an offload, have a chat with friends they've now made, have a good workout, and then get back to family and business life afterwards. So it's become quite a valuable space now, which is fantastic.
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds perfect for someone like me as well that's not really into going to the gym as such. So yeah, creating that little community is a good way of doing that.
Yeah, I think a lot of guys I know have got a gym membership, and they either don't go, or when they do, they don't really know what they're doing there. Whereas this is the lead session. You get a decent workout, you get help, and you're not surrounded by all sorts of different random people. You sort of build a bit of a space for yourself. So yeah, it's really good for that.
Yeah, it sounds good.
Awesome. Well, thank you once again for your time. Really appreciate it, and it was a great conversation.
Yeah, it was great. Hopefully catch up with you again soon, Paul.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Bye.
All right.